to the BNB Chain workshop. We will do some housekeeping at the beginning. These are the points of contact. You can come to our Binance virtual booth where you can talk to us and ask any questions or give any suggestions. We also have a carriers page. Both Binance and BNB Chain are hiring, so you can check out this link and see all the open roles. And these are the links for YouTube, Telegram, Discord, GitHub, but BNB Chain is also very active on Twitter, so definitely check that out. And please be interactive in the chat if you happen to have any questions. We will start with a very brief review of what blockchain actually is and how it is different from a centralized database, which we all know if we use cloud or the internet and any web service or web app. So basically, it is a distributed database. So it is maintained by many nodes. And these nodes are basically validating the transactions and making sure that the information which is stored on the blockchain is correct and that it is right. It cannot be changed by some malicious actors. Like if there is some malicious party, whether it's a company or it's an individual or a hacker, and they want to change something, some information or some transaction that is already published on the blockchain, they cannot really do it. And the reason why they cannot really do it is because the information or the transactions or whatever you want to store on the blockchain is stored in these blocks, which are linked to each other via cryptography, by the use of hash functions and ciphers. And the way how this database is structured, you can basically imagine it as a book, and you are just writing pages to the book. Hi everyone. So we just started talking about blockchain, and this is the data structure as you can see on the picture. So basically just one block is linked to another block, to another block, and to another block. And they are pointing to the previous block. That's how it is created. So basically, it's a long chain of transactions or long chain of blocks. And these blocks, they store transactions. And these transactions, there can be many transactions in one block. So it's not just one transaction. That's why it's really efficient, because it's fast. You can store many transactions which are happening in very short amount of time. Okay, now we will specifically move to one of the most popular blockchains that are out there, which is BNB Chain. And it's actually two blockchains. We will mostly talk about BNB Smart Chain because it's mostly relevant to us, which we want basically for us, if we want to develop decentralized applications, dApps, and new products on top of BNB Chain, because it's even Ethereum virtual machine compatible, which means we can use all of the Ethereum tools or like all of the tools that were initially developed for smart contracts. We can use them on this blockchain, and basically we can publish it there, the smart contract, which will be the backend for our decentralized application, and then use it and use the address of the contract to interact with it. Welcome everyone who has joined recently, and we will continue talking about some of the differences between the Beacon Chain and BNB Smart Chain. There are many different versions of, for example, BNB Coin, which is an asset. It's the native asset for the chain, but it also depends on the chain we are talking about. So like I said, there are multiple blockchains. You might have heard about Bitcoin, which is also a blockchain. Ethereum is also a blockchain. A Beacon Chain is a blockchain. BNB Smart Chain is a blockchain. And depending on the chain on which you're transacting, you have a different standard for the tokens which you are using. That's why you sometimes have to use a bridge to bridge from, let's say, one blockchain to another one if you want to use certain assets on another chain. But we will talk about that a bit later. So let's go to the next one. So Beacon Chain is the first blockchain that was developed before BNB Smart Chain. And it is basically a decentralized exchange. So you can trade your assets there, but in a decentralized way. So it's different than traditional centralized exchanges. And you can also create new tokens, mint them, burn them, freeze them, do many different operations on them, or bridge them to another chain. And the advantage of this chain is that the transaction fees are very low because it's optimized for the user experience, which means that basically it was developed with the users in mind, with the developers or traders or investors, because they don't want to pay high trading fees, which is the case on some other chains. And it's also very fast. And it's also very secure, which is very important because you know that when you're developing web applications, there are many security aspects you have to consider. But with blockchain, it's even more challenging because blockchain is public. You can see what everyone else is doing out there. So it's dangerous to just publish your private keys there, or like publish any information really, or just private information, because everyone can access it. So this is all the developers of these chains had that in mind when they were creating them, so that this does not happen. So it's very user-friendly and secure. And this is the BNB Smart Chain, which is maintained by the validators who are validating the transactions. And it uses proof of stake authority consensus, which is a bit different from the traditional proof of stake, which is, for example, used by the Ethereum blockchain. But there are also many ambitious goals for this specific blockchain to expand the set of validators to make it even more decentralized, even though it's already much more decentralized than some centralized companies that we use, or like cloud companies, for example. And they have in mind, again, security, stability, and consistency, which is very important for dApp developers because they have to have certain guarantees when it comes to reliability of the chain, the availability, speed, cost, and so on. And now we are transitioning to smart contracts, which are the heart of dApps and also blockchain development. So I don't know why they are called smart contracts, because maybe they are smart and they are also contracts, but basically they are computer programs which are stored and published on the blockchain. We will show how to actually publish a smart contract on the blockchain in a bit. But now we will focus on smart contracts on BNB Smart Chain, which is basically, you can use any language really, but the mostly used language is Solidity, which is quite similar to JavaScript. So if you're familiar with JavaScript, you could really like transition very easily. And I will explain what actually smart contracts are. So imagine you are having a deal with your neighbor. You want to buy a bike and he wants to sell you a bike, or she wants to sell you a bike. So you agree and you exchange. But this can be done in an automated way where you have a contract and all the conditions are already written in the contract, and you can just actually literally just, it is executed automatically. So as long as both sides fulfill the conditions which are specified in the public smart contract, which you can read, so there are like no hidden conditions, you just provide the asset, or like you fulfill the condition, and it is just executed just like that, just automatically. And it is used in various different ways. You can do decentralized loans on BNB chain, or you can exchange any tokens, assets. You can, for example, do insurance claims. And it is also used when you're minting NFTs, or if you're playing a game and there are certain rules, they are enforced by smart contracts and so on. Difference between this and what we have known before, like in, for example, traditional interaction, when you go to a bank and they give you some guarantees, the difference is that if you go to a bank, you have to trust a third party, like someone else, that they will do their job as they have promised. But smart contracts, you can imagine them as something that is automatic. So everything is really guaranteed because it is published on the blockchain, and the things, for example, the exchange or the loan, it will get executed only if all the conditions are fulfilled. You can imagine it as a if-else function. So if something is true, then this happens. But if it's not the true, if some other party is trying to lie to you, or they will not fulfill their conditions for whatever reason, for example, they don't have the funds or they don't have the money, then the transaction is not going to get executed. So you're basically going to reverse to where it started. So this transaction never happened, which is very good for many different applications, but I have just listed them here, but I will then show you what I actually mean if this does not make sense right now. So I hope that I'm not going too fast or too slow. So please let me know if it's not good and I can try to adjust. But now we will actually go to the application side to make more sense of it. So for developing smart contracts, you need an IDE. There are many different tools. I'm just using Remix here because what I like about it is that it's very interactive, and it's very good if you're just starting with smart contracts and you have never coded a smart contract, because this is basically in your web browser. You can check it out. It's this Remix ID. Then I will publish also the links so that you can check it out and try it out. And this is the code. Like, you basically create a contract, which is similar to a class in Java, for example. You have a constructor, which gets executed if you deploy the contract on BNB chain. And these are the functions that you can interact with. There are functions which are view functions. They don't cost any fee. And there are also functions which require you to change some state on the blockchain, which are the second type, and these actually do cost some fee. And I will briefly touch on what I mean by a fee, because if you have never done any smart contract development, you might not be familiar with what is a fee or what is a gas fee and so on. So on BNB Smart Chain, you pay fee in BNB, which is the native asset of this blockchain. And it basically gives some reward for the validators or for the people who are maintaining and sustaining the network, because it's not centralized. Like, it's running on many different nodes, and they have to make sure that the state on the blockchain is correct at any given time, and also that the transactions are getting processed and you are deploying your smart contracts and they're working, and your users of your applications, they can interact with them. So for that, you pay some small amount of fees. But on BNB Smart Chain, is very low compared to any other blockchain that I know. The fees are a few cents really, and in USD, which is very low compared to, for example, Ethereum. And that is what makes it really good for development, especially if you are new to this and you just want to play with it. And what is even better is that BNB Smart Chain, they have a test net. And what that means is that you can actually develop and you don't need to actually spend your own money or spend your own BNB, because there is this BNB Smart Chain faucet, which you can use, and you will get some BNB testnet for free. And this cannot be exchanged for the real BNB. So you don't get rich by getting BNB from there, but it's very useful if you're developing on the testnet and you're testing your smart contracts, testing your code, deploying it, and seeing how your dApp works. So this is the setup. You will need an IDE, but before an IDE, you will need a wallet such as MetaMask. I can show you after I finish this presentation. It basically looks like this. Oh, sorry. It basically looks like this. It's a wallet. It's a browser extension. I might have it here, actually. I'm not sure if you can see that. Yeah, so this is, or you cannot see it, sorry. Never mind. I will show you after I finish these slides. It basically looks like this picture on the bottom. It's just MetaMask. You have your asset there, but just to remind you, you have to connect to the correct chain, which you can find information in the developer documentation. And you just set the RPC URL, chain ID, symbol, which is BNB, it's the native token, and then link for the blockchain explorer. This basically just lets you start your development journey. So once you have installed wallet, you can use MetaMask, you can use a Binance Chain wallet or whatever other trust wallet, for example, whatever other wallet you want, but it must be EVM compatible if you're developing on BNB Smart Chain. And you need an IDE. You can use your favorite IDE as well. The kind of reason why I'm showing you this particular IDE is because it's specifically for Solidity and specifically for smart contracts, and you can click on these things there and actually, for example, try functions of your favorite smart contract and so on. Okay, I will just pause to see if there are any questions, but it doesn't seem to be. So I will press on because we don't have that much time, and then we can discuss and take questions at the end. You are here maybe because you're a Web2 developer. So you develop on the cloud, you might do machine learning pipelines, you might do web apps, or I mean, all of us use Facebook, for example, or Twitter or any other social media, right? So we are familiar with Web2. That's what I mean by Web2. You log in, you might do single sign-on and so on. But your information is stored on some server, which is a server of the third party. And the third parties, such as Google or Facebook, they have the information about you on their servers. And there are some people who might not like that idea, or they might think that there is a different way how to develop your applications really, so that the users have full control and full ownership of their own data, of their own assets, of their own pictures. So it cannot happen that someone will just decide like, oh, you cannot use my service because I decided that I will not be hosting you my services. So this is the difference between Web3, which is kind of the heart of dApps and development of BNB Smart Chain. And there are no intermediaries. So you're interacting directly with the blockchain, with the BNB Smart Chain. And the way how it's done is that smart contracts are the backend of your decentralized application. So they kind of execute the logic that you want. They execute the functionality of your application, whatever you're trying to do. You can, for example, do a social platform for your users on BNB Smart Chain. The difference is you don't really store the data, but you use some sort of decentralized database, such as IPFS or some other decentralized database, so that there is no central server which would kind of store all of that information. There are already many tools and many infrastructure services, such as, for example, Alchemy, Infra, or many others. And there's also kind of a tool for querying and large-scale data processing. What I mean, large scale is really large scale. So we're talking about GraphQL. We are not just talking about some API requests. And there are also oracles, which you need for your priced feed. So for example, if you create, I don't know, like a decentralized exchange where users can interact with it, with the smart contracts, and for example, trade assets, you might use Chainlink as an option for you to get the prices of your assets at any given moment, because it's not stored anywhere on a central server or anything like that. So you have to think about all of those things. And there are a lot of interesting challenges that you have to overcome, but everything is possible. This is kind of how the architecture looks like. So basically, this is the user, they use some browser. The key point or the key thing here is that their wallet is their identity. So they don't have to have an account like an email account or a Facebook account or whatever. They just need a wallet and an address. And that address is just like a string of different characters. So you cannot really tell based on the address who that is unless they kind of provided that information somewhere and it gets matched to that address. But the initial idea was that it's anonymous and you cannot tell who that actually is. But what you can tell is all of the history of transaction that the user has made in the past. So if I create a wallet and I trade Bitcoin and then I trade BNB coin and then I bridge it to some other chain, someone who is interested in my trading history because they think, for example, I'm a good trader and they want to do the same trading strategy as I'm doing, they can just look at my past transactions and see what I've been up to. And that is basically why, or like the reason why this is possible is because a blockchain is public, like I said, and you can see everything, which is really good. Because imagine on some other planet, I'm not going to be very specific, but there is a government, for example, and they have their spending and like we pay the taxes and they're spending money, and we basically see all of these spendings. Like, for example, they donated to education, or like they spend this money on building new hospital and so on, and we can see all of that, like all of us, the citizens of that fake planet, we can see that. That's just like an example in my mind that I have, that this is one of the possibilities of what is possible. But back to this realistic example. So in the backend, we have the smart contracts, which are written in Solidity, or you can use Viper, or there are some other chains which use Rust. And you might be questioning, like, is it worth to learn all of those languages? We need the backend, which is the smart contracts, which we talked about. There are different languages for backend development. I recommend you to start with Solidity because you can directly start on BNB Smart Chain, but there are also other options which are helpful if you want to, for example, bridge your assets from one chain to another chain, because the idea behind BNB Smart Chain is that it's also compatible with other blockchain, and maybe the future will be kind of multi-chain, so you can take one asset from one chain and then trade it on the other chain and then come back to BNB Smart Chain and do all kind of transactions. So start with Solidity because it's very easy. And I recommend you to use this Crypto Zombies tutorial. I have done it a long time ago, but it was kind of fun. It's for complete beginners. So if you're not very familiar with Solidity or smart contracts, you can definitely try the tutorial. And if you are more familiar, you can definitely use some of the documentation from BNB Smart Chain, which I will show a bit later. Just to reiterate, we talked about the backend, so decentralized database, smart contract, no central server, but we will also talk a bit about front end. Yeah, exactly. So I see I'm not the only one who is having issues with the AirPods. That's great. If you happen to have any questions, or if I'm talking too fast or too slow, just let me know. And we will talk about the front end as well. So luckily, front end is very similar to what you're used to in traditional development. So you can use CSS, HTML, JavaScript, or whatever you're used to. There are many frameworks which you're familiar with if you're developing web apps, for example. And if not, you can also learn it in the tutorials that I provided, and that will be at the end of this presentation. So the only difference is really that here you are just connecting with your wallet, not with your accounts. So it's up to you how much of your identity you provide, because some people like to kind of link their wallet to their identity, but there are other people who prefer to be kind of pseudo-anonymous. So you can only see their history of transactions, but not really who they are. That is definitely a benefit. And other benefits of this setup, of this architecture, is that the uptime is guaranteed, kind of as long as the blockchain is working, as long as the nodes are contributing towards validating the transactions. And there are also other guarantees such as trust, data integrity, privacy, security, which might not mean much to you. You might say, okay, these are important, but why should I really care? Like, this is kind of, we're living in like advanced tech century. So like this shouldn't be a problem, but this is actually a big advantage of smart contracts and decentralized applications, because these outputs of these smart contracts are deterministic. What it means is that if something is written in the smart contract, it is guaranteed that it will happen if certain conditions are fulfilled. So you don't have to rely on someone that they will fulfill their promises, because it is like a vending machine. Like if you input the correct things, you're guaranteed the output which is specified in the smart contract. And there are many interesting challenges. So for example, if you want to build a social platform on BNB Smart Chain, you have to think about how to store sensitive customer data. Is it enough to just like some kind of hash them, mix them, encrypt them, or like what should I do with that data? Or for example, I once tried to code a decentralized game, and it was a very simple game, but I discovered that I cannot really generate a random number on the blockchain. There is a whole research about random numbers, and I didn't know about it. And I spent so many days trying to learn about how to actually generate a number on the blockchain. And it's actually very interesting. So I will not spend too much time talking about it, but definitely check it out because there is a whole research about it, how to do it. And it's possible, or I mean, most of the people think it's possible, even though it depends how much random you really need the number to be, because there are always certain aspects that could make it kind of tampered with before it's actually random. Another thing is updates and maintenance. So this is definitely a challenge, because imagine that you write some application and you publish or deploy a smart contract on the blockchain, but then you want to change something. But like I said, you want to change something in the logic, for example. But smart contracts are not immutable. Sorry, they are immutable. So like they cannot be changeable, or you cannot really change any functions once you deploy the smart contract. So you have to deploy another smart contract. Well, in theory, you don't really, or like in practice, you don't really do it, because you can create a proxy smart contract, which kind of uses the logic from your previous deployed smart contract, but you add some functionality on there, or you change something. Or you can also use libraries and other things which make your development easy and possible. So these challenges, they were kind of dealt with in the past. So it's not like this is the reason why you cannot develop on the blockchain, because that's not true. There are solutions for all of these challenges. I'm just mentioning them because they are not usually that important in the traditional development. Like you can always make your database private, right? Well, this is a challenge in blockchain, how to do that. Or for example, scalability. Like once you have very many users, the blockchain tends to get congested and the fees tend to increase. So you have to deal with that, like how to do it. And there are many different solutions which already a BNB Smart Chain has dealt with, like by, for example, introducing side chains and so on. So definitely check it out, but it's more advanced. So I will move into some more applications, and then we can talk about the more advanced stuff if you're interested. These are just other development tools. I'm mentioning all of this just for your reference. If you are completely new to this, you can check out the frameworks for BNB Smart Chain, testing tools, security testing, ABIs, which are kind of the same as interfaces for your classes, for example, in Java, or you can check that out, like what that actually is, but it's specific to smart contracts. You can check out popular APIs, popular libraries, and there are also other options and other infrastructure providers as well. And this is the last thing about development before we jump into DeFi and applications. So this is actually really cool. This Binance Smart Chain, or BNB Smart Chain, I think it was also rebranded to BNB Smart Chain Explorer, which lets you to see everything that is happening on the blockchain, which I find very exciting, because you can check other wallet addresses, you can check the validators, which are validating the transactions on BNB chain. you can basically use it for many different things. You use that a lot during your development. If you are deploying a smart contract and you want to see if it was actually deployed on the chain, or like if you have funds in the contract, or if the interface of your contract looks all right, or if you are doing transactions with the smart contract, like for example, testing the functionality, you want to see like if your decentralized exchange is actually working, you have to test it first. So you can see all of that progress of transactions on the chain. And you can also validate other smart contracts before you use them in your dApps. And you can do all sorts of other on-chain analysis. You can find your favorite traders, or like just wallets which have like good profits. You can see like, okay, they started with this little amount of money and somehow they made these transactions and they ended up with a lot of money. So you can kind of see on-chain transactions, on-chain trading, and you can develop your trading strategies based on that. Like I know many people who have actually done it, and it is just another thing that can provide you with information if you're, for example, trader or investor, like if you want to see what is trending right now. So this is DeFi. You might have heard about decentralized finance, and I will just touch on it briefly because it's one of the areas where there are a lot of decentralized applications on BNB Smart Chain. And these basically let you to trade your assets. So for example, if you have Ethereum and you have BNB coin or Bitcoin or Chainlink or whatever other cryptocurrencies you want to trade in, or you have your own asset which you want to trade, you can use decentralized exchanges. There are also, like, for example, kind of the most popular dApp on BNB Smart Chain when it comes to exchange, I think, is PancakeSwap, which is not like, I mean, there are others as well, but this one I know the best, and I've used it, I tried it, and it's great. It's not that hard to use. There are a lot of options, but please be careful whenever you are trading there. Like, always do your due diligence, always do your research, and so on. We are not recommending you to do any, or like buy any tokens or trade any tokens. This is just for information that it exists and it was developed by a passionate team who was trying to build on BNB Smart Chain. Another protocol is, for example, Venus. It's for decentralized loans and borrowing. And the way how you interact with it is similar to what we have shown in the development section. So you connect with your wallet and you can directly interact with the smart contracts. And why I'm mentioning it here is because these are also on the test net. So you don't have to actually use your own funds. Like if you're a developer and you want to contribute to the open source code of these protocols, or any other protocol or any other dApp really on BNB Smart Chain, most of them are open source, and most of them kind of can give you inspiration of how to do things. So you can build your own things, which is really great, because we don't see that often that everything is open source and you can just get inspiration and collaborate. People are generally very open to share their ideas with you and collaborate with you, because there are just so many different things you could try to do. And this is just really one of the applications. Another one is NFTs. You can mint your own NFTs, trade them. You can play games and use NFTs in your games, or you can own a land and then provide people with the opportunity to visit your land and trade NFTs for that. And I mean, there are so many different virtual world platforms and games. You can try them out and see. Many of them are also on the testnet, so that's great if you want to try it out before actually interacting with it. Okay, there's actually a question from Dom. Which blockchain is easiest to learn to program on? This is a very interesting question. And the reason why is because everyone would probably say start with the first blockchain that was developed for smart contracts, which I'm not going to lie, is not BNB Smart Chain. But what is cool about BNB Smart Chain is that it's EVM compatible. So all all of the tools and all of the things which worked on Ethereum, which is the first smart contract platforms that is out there. It's kind of the most known. But the difference between BNB Smart Chain and Ethereum is that the fees are much lower, and also the tools that worked on Ethereum also work on BNB Smart Chain. So you can start really with any EVM-compatible blockchain. So whether it's Ethereum or BNB Smart Chain, it doesn't matter because they're exactly like the development tools that you will use are the same, basically. Like you need the same ID, the same wallet, and so on. But I would I started with BNB Smart Chain because I liked the fact that the fees were really low back then, and they still are, and that makes a lot of difference. Another difference is the speed. Another thing to consider is the community. So are there developers and other community members which are willing to help you with your starting to start, and are there many useful tutorials? Is there like academy available which would teach you how to do all of those things when developing? So that's what I really love about BNB Chain, that there are people in the community and you can ask what they want to do, or if you have a particular question about a specific protocol, there are usually people who will help you out. But it's the same with for example, Ethereum as well. So both of them are really great, and you can try to build a bridge, for example, between BNB Smart Chain and Ethereum, and you can try both. So it's up to you, really. And this is a really cool application. I actually didn't know about this until very recently. And when I found out, I was like super amazed about the fact that there is a charity. It's actually the first ever blockchain charity running on BNB Smart Chain. And it has helped to so many different peoples and so many different people in so many different areas of the world. So for example, there is a campaign for helping people in Ukraine, but there is a campaign also in Afghanistan to help with the education of women. And there is also a campaign, a charity campaign to fight hunger, and many others. Like I just picked these three because I was just like so amazed, because like all of the problems that are happening in the world, I could actually use my crypto to donate some of that, and I could see immediately the impact it has, because once you donate, you can basically see it on chain because it's public, and you can see also in the future, like when the funds are used, how exactly they were used. And that's very exciting for me, because I always, like when I was donating the money, I was of course like happy that I could do it, especially if it was for a good cause, but I never really like saw or knew what happened afterwards. But blockchain enables you to donate and then see what actually how your funds were used and how you are making impact in the world. So definitely check the charity on BNB Smart Chain and BNB Chain, and make sure you transfer the funds on the correct chain, because that's very important, because there is this there are two chains, like I said. So just make sure that you send the correct from the correct wallet to the correct wallet on the correct chain. So if you're sending on BNB Smart Chain, send it to a BNB Smart Chain wallet. And now this is very exciting, because there might be some people who are developers. Okay, I hope you can still hear me. Okay, we are finishing. I know that we should be finishing right now, but we are almost at the end. I just want to share with you this thing, which we could talk about also at the Binance booth, which we are transferring to, or like transitioning to from this. And this is going to be an exciting program. It's actually a paid volunteers program for people who are excited about DeFi, excited about BNB Smart Chain, or excited about blockchain. And they are very passionate community builders, or they are very passionate tech developers as well. So if you are very passionate about DeFi, NFTs, and all of the stuff that is already built on BNB Smart Chain, you can become Martian, which is a program developed by the BNB Chain team. And it is very exciting because it enables you to work remotely, and also contribute with your own ideas, however you think you want to develop the BNB chain ecosystem, whether it's from the developer's point of view or from trader's point of view, or you just like to interact with all of the protocols in the ecosystem, you can basically do a lot of things, and there are a lot of benefits if you join this program. So you should definitely try it out and apply, and see wherever it takes you, because there are so many inspirational people in the community and there's so much to learn from them. I'm super happy that I have the opportunity to learn from them as well and see what the people are developing, building, and how they are contributing to this ecosystem. Because like I said, I love that it's open source, and that's so great because you see what people are doing. And if you are curious, you can always ask, and they're super willing to help you. And there's so much documentation online, and you can just learn all of these things if you're interested in finance or fintech and in blockchain or development. Like if you're a gamer or artist, whatever you are, there's always stuff to do on BNB Smart Chain. So if you're interested in volunteering as well and in the community around this ecosystem, definitely check it out. And the very last slide, and then I will take up some questions if there are any. So this is just a summary. So it's permissionless, the whole ecosystem. So literally wherever in the world you are, you're welcome to join and develop on BNB Smart Chain. You don't really need anything. You can start right now as long as you have a computer. There are so many useful tutorials, so that's great. Like I said, it's inclusive. So whatever your passion is, you can start developing, because there are so many applications and they're emerging every year. Like a few years ago, there were no NFTs, like nobody knew what these JPEGs on the blockchain were. And suddenly everyone knows what NFTs are. If you don't know what an NFT is, it's a non-fungible token. So it's basically a picture which is stored on the blockchain. And it's forever decentralized, which really I should highlight more, because that's really why we're here today, because we're kind of transitioning from this centralized architecture to a decentralized architecture, and it's scalable. So if your dApp is used by 100 users, it can also be used by 1,000 and 10,000 and so on. So these are the ways how to get involved. So you can contribute directly to BNB chain development by raising an issue on GitHub. You can see the developers track there, like whatever was done. And there are certain guidelines and protocol how to proceed. You can check that in the documentation. You can also build your own dApps and products. So whatever you're passionate about, you can see you like some application and you want to replicate it, or not really replicate it in the sense to just copy everything. No, but you like some website, for example, or some more platform, and you want to do decentralized. You can learn so much from it. So there are tutorials how to do it, and you can come up with your own creative ideas. There's this Martian program that I talked about, which is specifically run by BNB Chain. So definitely, if you're interested, apply. And you can also check the charity efforts if you would like to donate on the blockchain and support some cause. There are many different problems which were already solved, or like they raised some capital and then they used it very effectively. So you can check that out, exactly how they did it, because it's very transparent. Or you can just interact with the apps that are already built on the chain. You can stake BNB to support the network, to make sure it's secure, that it's sustained, because that is also very important. You could become one of the delegators by staking your BNB on the chain. And you can join the community on Twitter, Discord, Telegram, YouTube, and so on. These are the resources. I will also then publish them so you can click on them. And there are some questions, so I will quickly address some of them. Also, feel free to discuss, like if you have any thing that you would like to discuss about, or anything you would like to point out. I know that we are a little bit over the time, so we will continue in the booth. But there were some questions. So what is the easiest way how to start develop dApps? We have already said that there are multiple things, but for me, it's BNB Smart Chain. And is BNB Chain suitable for large-scale SocialFi app? Well, I think from the blockchains that are currently available, it's definitely one of the most suitable, because that is the goal, to make it scalable to as many users as possible, to make the fees manageable, so very low for the developers and for the users to use. And that depends on how the chain is congested, right? So if you have a lot of users, there is going to be a lot of demand for validating the transactions and processing the transactions, because there are many people interacting. So you need a lot of kind of throughput of that network. So that is kind of what BNB Smart Chain is optimized for. So they have taken that road to actually make it very scalable and possible for SocialFi in the future to keep the fees low and to make it decentralized, but still kind of usable. Because this is the thing, this is actually a good thing how to end this, that everyone wants decentralization. Everyone in the blockchain community wants decentralization, because that's the core key idea. But you also have to think about the users. Like, if you make everything decentralized, you have to make sure that you can provide the network for the growing demand from the users. Like, if there are thousands, millions in the future, maybe users joining your application, you have to make sure that it actually keeps working for them and that it doesn't crash, get congested, and they will have to pay a lot of gas fees and they will not be able to afford it, because they will have to pay $100 for one transaction, which is not a way to go. I hope that that's clear why, because I would not pay that much to send a message to someone, for example. So that does not happen on BNB Smart Chain, at least. It has never happened before, and I've been using it for quite some time. So that's definitely a plus. And thank you very much for your insightful questions, insightful comments, and thank you, Binance Ecosystem, for providing the links. I love you for that, because I was supposed to do it, but I didn't have time to do it. So thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed, and I would love to invite you for the booth, because we're continuing from there. So there are going to be other Binance Angels as well, which are from Binance. They will address your questions as well. There are going to be also people from BNB Chain, and whatever your questions are, or if you would like to discuss some dApp ideas, or you would like to learn about open roles, volunteering, please come to our e-booth, which is, you can head to Expo and find Binance booth, which I will show quickly. I had it in the first slide. You can find it very quickly. It's just, why is it so slow? Well, I hope that it's basically this yellow thing. Oh yeah, this one. So just click on it, and not on these slides, but yes, the slides will be available. I can add them to the description at the booth, or actually, you know what? I will share them in this chat after I stop sharing the presentation. Okay, I can share the slides, I believe, or I will share them actually in the chat, in the main, in our e-booth. And yeah, so see you all there, and thank you so much for coming, and I hope that you will try some stuff out, and goodbye, see you. Thank you very much for coming.